I had barely set one foot on my own backyard grass when this woman came power walking at me like she'd been hiding in the bushes waiting for the exact second I appeared. "You can't be here," she barked, clipboard swinging like a battle axe. "This is HOA property now. Step off the community lakeside zone." I froze, one hand still on my coffee, staring at the wooden dock my grandfather built 40 years ago and the house sitting 10 feet behind me. My house. My grass. My lakefront. But Karen, because of course her name was Karen, didn't blink. She jabbed her pen like she was writing my death warrant. "Trespassing. Leave or I file a violation right now." That's when I knew this wasn't confusion. This was war with a smiley face sticker on it. After she stormed off, clipboard clutched like a holy relic, I stood there breathing in the morning air that used to feel peaceful. I knew exactly who she was. Karen Thompson, newly elected HOA president, the kind of woman who wore pastel polos like armor and treated every rule like it came straight from God. I'd heard the stories from neighbors who still whispered her name like a curse. But I'd stayed out of it. Remote work kept me traveling weekends and holidays only, so I figured if I minded my own business she'd leave me alone. Wrong. Dead wrong. This strip of lakeside lawn had never been part of Sunnyvale Estates. My grandfather bought the original parcel in the 70s, back when the community was just dirt roads and promises. Developers begged him to sell the extra 100 feet along the water, so they could advertise private lake access for all. He laughed in their faces, carved the boundary out with iron stakes and a surveyor who still had the original plats. The HOA bought everything around us. Nice big houses, fancy gates, ridiculous fines for leaving your trash can out an extra hour, but never us. Never this grass. Never the dock. Never the little garden shed he built with lumber he hauled himself. When he passed, everything transferred clean to me. County records, tax office, Google Maps, even the old photos in the hallway all proved it. I still maintained it exactly like he taught me. Trim the grass, reinforce the dock after storms, plant native flowers every spring. Last month I pulled a county shoreline permit to rebuild the weathered walkway and add a small deck. Approved in 48 hours. Everything legal, everything documented. So when Karen marched up claiming Phase 3 recreational expansion, turned my yard into public property, it wasn't funny. It was insane with a side of pure evil. I hadn't even finished brushing the dew off my shoes when she spun around and marched back, flipping through papers like a prosecutor. "Updated boundaries from last year," she announced, shoving a blurry newsletter under my nose. Some cheap clip art map with a red circle drawn over my dock like a kindergartner marking treasure. Board voted. Your section is now community open space. Adjacent properties fall under our environmental codes. I took the paper before she could snatch it back. "Karen, I'm not in your HOA. My land is exempt. Legally. Forever." She waved her hand like I was speaking Martian. "You can't refuse community decisions. It applies to everyone using the lakefront." She actually tapped the newsletter like it was the Constitution. "You own a Tesla too. Doesn't mean you can park it in the middle of the road." I stared. The analogy was so stupid it circled back to genius. "That doesn't even make sense." She lifted her walkie-talkie. "Dispatch, this is President Thompson. Security to the North Lake access. We have a trespasser refusing to vacate community property." A golf cart rattled over minutes later. Chase, the 23-year-old security kid who still looked like he was playing dress-up in an oversized vest, hopped out looking lost. Karen immediately stepped between us like a mama bear protecting her delusional cubs. "Write him up. Escort him off. He's damaging community dunes, lawns with illegal construction." Chase blinked at my perfectly permitted walkway. "Ma'am, I thought the HOA zone ended at the pavilion." Karen's voice went full kindergarten teacher mode. "Chase, sweetie, the board doesn't need to explain everything to you. Just remove him." I almost felt bad for the kid. He looked like his brain had blue screened. I pulled out my phone. "Chase, I'm happy to show you the real deed, the survey markers, the county permit. Want to see?" Karen physically blocked me. "Do not listen to him. That walkway violates conservation rules." It's vandalism. Vandalism. I repeated, genuinely laughing now. I restored storm damage with county approval. My lawn. My dock. My flowers. She started scribbling on her little pad with furious strokes. Violation 1, trespassing. Violation 2, unauthorized structures. Violation 3, environmental damage to community grass. Violation 4, and she underlined it twice for drama. Interference with recreational space. I couldn't help it. I laughed right in her face. You're writing me tickets for standing in my own yard? She snapped the clipboard shut like she just solved a murder. You'll get the official notice in the mail. Address on file. She smirked. The real owner's address. I tilted my head. And who exactly do you think that is? Robert Harlan, she said proudly. Very cooperative gentleman. Always told us the lakefront was open to everyone. My stomach did a slow flip. Not fear, just the sick realization of how deep this lie had gone. Karen Robert was my grandfather. He died 6 years ago. I inherited everything. Her face did something complicated. That's impossible. He was alive when I spoke to him. When? She hesitated half a second. A few years back. Define few. Maybe 8. I nodded slowly. Right after he passed. You've been telling people my dead grandfather gave you permission to take my yard. She recovered fast. Verbal agreements count in HOAs. Everyone knows that. I just stared. The woman was rewriting reality faster than my Wi-Fi could load. The next morning I woke to pure chaos. Music, laughter, kids screaming. The smell of cheap charcoal and entitlement drifting through my open windows. I stepped onto the porch and my jaw actually dropped. My backyard looked like a flash mob tailgate party had exploded overnight. 40-plus neighbors sprawled across my grass. Tents staked right through my flower beds. Umbrellas jammed into the lawn like victory flags. 3 Bluetooth speakers battling for dominance. Someone had tied a volleyball net between 2 of my grandfather's original iron markers. My markers. My grass. My dock. And there, throne-like in the center, sat Karen in a bright pink beach chair, clipboard balanced on her knee like a scepter. She was directing traffic with queenly sweeps of her hand. Umbrellas over there. Keep the kids away from the dock railing, safety first. Grill stays 20 feet from the walkway. HOA fire code. I opened the gate and started down the steps. A dude in cargo shorts immediately blocked me like a bouncer. Hey bro, this area's reserved for the neighborhood today. I blinked. Reserved? This is my backyard. He gave me the saddest pity smile. Yeah, Karen explained you've been squatting. Don't worry, the HOA's handling it. We're not judging. Squatting. On land my family owned since before half these people were born. I brushed past him and marched straight to Karen's command center. People parted like the Red Sea for Moses. Except I was Moses and they just realized the burning bush was actually my property deed. Karen looked up with the smug grin of someone who'd practiced this moment in the mirror. Oh good, you're awake, she said sweetly. Perfect day for the Phase 3 launch party. We're reclaiming the lakefront for the community. Reclaiming. I repeated, voice low. From who exactly? From you, she answered like it was obvious. Board voted last night. Emergency session. Unanimous. This land was abandoned for years. You only show up occasionally. That's not ownership, that's occupation. I laughed so loud half the crowd turned. Karen, that's not how deeds work. That's not how anything works. She ignored me and shouted over her shoulder. Make sure the cornhole boards stay on the grass side. HOA rules. Someone actually yelled back. Yes, chairwoman. I felt like I'd stepped into a cult. An older couple near the water caught my eye. The wife leaned in and whispered. She told us you were squatting and the lakefront had always been shared. We're so sorry, we didn't know. I took a slow breath. Patience. Document everything. Because this wasn't a misunderstanding anymore. This was a coordinated land grab dressed up as a neighborhood barbecue. Karen crossed her arms. If you have a problem, take it to the board. Today this space is reserved. We're not moving. I stepped closer, voice calm but carrying. This is private property. You are trespassing. She lifted her chin. Not anymore. That was the moment the switch flipped. She wanted war? Fine. I pulled out my phone, hit record quietly, and started walking through the chaos, capturing every tent stake in my flower beds, every kid digging trenches in my grass, Karen barking orders like a drill sergeant. I smiled the whole time, because I knew exactly what came next. I walked right up to her again. Karen, I'm only going to say this once more. Leave. She smirked. Make me. I smiled wider. Okay. I raised my voice so the whole crowd could hear. Hey everyone. Karen wants me to prove this is my yard. So I'm calling the actual owner right now on speaker. Phones came out. People started filming. Karen's smirk faltered for the first time. I dialed. One ring. Good morning, this is Attorney Blake. Blake speakerphone. Can you confirm who owns the lakefront property at my address? Of course, he said smoothly. You own it outright. Deed is solely in your name. You hold the active county shoreline permit and full private rights. The HOA has zero jurisdiction. Never has. Murmurs rippled like a wave. Karen's face went the color of a ripe tomato. I kept going. And just to be crystal clear, am I allowed to be on my own land? Blake actually chuckled. Obviously. Anyone telling you otherwise is mistaken or committing trespass. Karen snatched for her walkie-talkie. That's it. Dispatch, police to the north access. Trespasser refusing to leave community property. She called the cops on the actual owner. In front of 40 witnesses. Black comedy gold. The officers arrived looking like they'd already had 3 HOA calls that morning. Karen launched into her Oscar-worthy performance before they even stepped off the grass. Officers, thank goodness. This man is squatting on community land and won't leave. I handed over the folder without a word: driver's license, deed, survey with GPS coordinates, county permit. One officer walked the markers while the other compared everything on his phone. He came back nodding. Markers match exactly. This is private property, ma'am. Not HOA, never was. Karen exploded. But we've used it for years. Historical use equals ownership. Look it up. The officer didn't even blink. Ma'am, that's not how property law works. You need to clear out. Now. People started packing in awkward silence. Chairs folded, coolers dragged. Kids yanked away mid-sandcastle. Karen stood rooted like a stubborn lawn gnome until the officer repeated the order. Finally she grabbed her chair, dragging it so hard it carved trenches in my grass. This isn't over. The HOA will sue. You'll regret this. The last officer called after her. Ma'am, you're grilled too. She spun, grabbed the still smoking thing, and stormed off like a cartoon villain who just lost her villain song. 2 days of blessed silence followed, until the letters started. First a polite demand for reasonable community access. Then accusations of destroying endangered grass I'd planted myself. Then demands to remove my own dock because it blocked emergency lake access. Inspectors, regular neighbors with clipboards, began showing up uninvited, snapping photos of my shed, my flowers, even my mailbox like it was a crime scene. A friendly neighbor pulled me aside one evening. You should know Karen's telling everyone you abandoned the property, and your grandfather verbally gifted it to the community. She's got half the board convinced. I almost laughed. Abandoned? I was here last month rebuilding the deck. He shrugged helplessly. She's loud. And persuasive. Then the final letter arrived. Preliminary paperwork challenging my ownership and requesting county review of usage rights. They weren't just annoying me anymore. They were trying to erase me. I scanned every page and fired them to Blake. He called back in 40 minutes, voice tight. They didn't just send you fake notices. They forged letters to the county under your name requesting revocation of your shoreline permit, claiming you wanted the project canceled, and that the HOA should get temporary oversight for environmental protection. That's document fraud. County level. Cold rage settled in my chest. Trespassing was one thing. Impersonating me to steal legal rights? That was felony territory with extra HOA stupidity. Blake drafted the hammer. Cease and desist trespass claims backed by my video. Defamation from the lies. We're going nuclear, he said. They won't survive discovery. The HOA called an emergency board meeting 2 days later. I didn't attend. Blake advised letting them implode. I didn't need to be there. 3 different residents texted me play-by-play. Karen opened by calling me a hostile squatter and insisting the forged letters were legitimate communications, with verbal authorization from my dead grandfather. The room went dead quiet. Then someone plugged in a laptop and hit play my video of the barbecue invasion. Karen's voice filled the room barking orders, claiming the HOA had reclaimed the lakefront, directing people to plant tents on my flowers. Board members looked physically ill. One asked, "You forged a signature?" Another, "This could bankrupt us in legal fees." The president stood up slowly. "Karen, you're done." She tried the meltdown, screaming about cowards' community heritage, how she was the only one brave enough to protect them. Chair fell over. Voice cracked. Nobody moved. Nobody defended her. They just watched her burn. Next morning the HOA president called me personally. Voice exhausted. "She's removed. Permanently. We're covering all your legal fees, installing permanent boundary signs at our expense, and dropping every claim. The lakefront is yours. Always was. We're sorry." I looked out at the quiet water, the repaired dock, the flowers already bouncing back. "Appreciate it." The signs went up a week later, big, bright, impossible to miss. Neighbors started apologizing quietly. One guy who'd grilled burgers on my grass brought me a 6-pack and mumbled, "We were idiots." Kids no longer cut through. Even the loudest families now stopped at the new markers like they were electric fences. Evenings I sit on the new deck my permit paid for, watching the sun set over water that's finally mine again. I can almost hear my grandfather chuckling. He never liked conflict, but he never let anyone take what wasn't theirs either. I protected what he built the same way he would have, with patience, paperwork, and one perfectly timed video. Karen claimed I was trespassing on her lakefront. In the end, the only thing she actually owned was the world's most public humiliation. So tell me in the comments, was Karen just protecting the community, like she screamed? Or was she a power-hungry liar who finally got exactly what she deserved? Who's really in the wrong here? Drop your HOA horror stories below. Like, share, subscribe, we've got more where this came from. And wherever you're watching from, I hope your next backyard moment is quiet, peaceful, and completely yours.